Hey guys, what's up? So welcome to this video. This is a video that is geared towards people that are just getting started with web development. And with web development, I actually recommend that as a great, really career choice because everything runs on the web now. Every business has like a website, every legitimate one anyway. And now all kinds of business is conducted via websites and web-based technology, which you could spend all day learning all the web-based technology. In fact, all day. You could spend your whole life probably learning it. It changes so much. It's changed so much since just the time that I've been doing it, which is 8 years now. So in this video is just simply to to keep your sanity and to just give a demonstration on how I think you should proceed if you're just getting started as a web developer and you have dreams of becoming a web developer. All right, so number one, you need a place to put your project file. What I like to do is put everything in my C drive in my projects folder. I'm going to create a new folder in here called tutorial. And then inside of here, I'm going to say just beginning web development. All right, so now that we're inside the folder, we know that we have the folder created. We know where it is and everything. And we need something to actually write our code in. So if you're going to be dealing with web development, it's important that you understand that there's basically 3 different languages that you're going to be writing. And now technically they're not all languages. Like HTML itself is considered the skeleton. Like if you're equating a web page to like a human body, it would be the skeleton, the thing that gives structure and definition to the web page. That is what HTML is. And it's considered a syntax, so it's not really a programming language, but it's very weird looking. You have these tags, and every opening tag has to have a closing tag. So you can see this is the opening li, and then the closing li has the forward slash there, or really the backslash, I should say. And then that closes off that particular element. You could have nested elements. So this li here has an a inside of it, which is anchor. This is how you click on a link and it takes you to another page. So this is all HTML, and it's important that you understand this. You can actually write HTML right into a browser. Like you don't even need any other tool at this point. Like if I wanted to go into the body here, let's just say if I right click and say inspect using Chrome, you know what, let's just drill into the body here. So we have an image. That's all we have in here. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to edit this HTML. I'm going to get rid of this image, and I'm going to put just a title in here, hello world. Now this is a header tag, so you need to get started with HTML. This is a good way. So now you see that hello world is right there. Now it's in black, so it's hard to see. It would be helpful if we put a style tag on this and made it white so that we can see it. And inline styling did not work, it appears. Oh, there it goes. I must have just typed it wrong, my bad. All right, so now you can see that we now have this HTML. So this is actual inline styling on the HTML element. This video is not about teaching you guys HTML. It's just simply how I think that you guys should go about learning HTML and learning about it first. So what I think that you should do is probably go to a website like the W3C is a good one for HTML here. So I'll show you guys this. This is actually a good tutorial. If you follow through all these demonstrations on the left hand side, you're going to be in pretty good shape when it comes to learning HTML and the basic tags and everything that you're going to run into. The next thing you need to understand in web development is that we use something called CSS, which stands for cascading style sheets. And this is another, it is another, what is somewhat of a markup language type of thing, and not really a programming language, but there is quite a bit that you have to learn in order to understand how pages are laid out and styled and everything. So in this particular case, you can see that these little properties here are CSS properties. And those are what we modify using CSS in order to change the way things are laid out and displayed. So once again, if we go back and we end up messing with our HTML here, I'll just do it inside the body. All right, so now we have this this testing message. Once again, it's black here. But what if I right click on this, and I can go over on my styles panel within Chrome over here, And I can click on this new style rule, and what it's going to do is it's going to add a new rule for this new H1. So now I can start writing CSS right into the browser, which is a great way to learn. And to learn all the different ways that you can style CSS and things like that. Once again, another good site for CSS, I think, is probably W3C. I'm not going to recommend the W3C for everything, but W3 Schools is a good option for CSS. So if you go through all this and learn about all this CSS here, you're going to be in really good shape and you're going to be an expert. But anyway, let's go back over to the browser. You could actually start messing with the colors now. So if I do FFF, that's going to be white. If I click on this, I can start moving my colors around, changing the way things look. All right, so there's our testing. And it is a good way to start adding different styles and stuff like that and just seeing how the page interacts. So if I'm like, let's put a div on here, and we'll say ID equals testing div. All right, so anyway, if I could type, okay. So now we have this div here, and if I went ahead and I right click on that, make sure that I have this highlighted, go over, click the plus button, you can see that it's just going to target this one div container. So I'm going to change the color of the font to be white. I'm also going to say display, you know what, we'll change the background color. We'll change the width and height too. So we'll say width, and this is all CSS here that we're using, and we'll give it a height of the same amount, make it a perfect square basically. And then we'll change the background color to red. Yeah, that looks really ugly. But anyway, that's all CSS and everything. So now I can even change my font size. If I want that font size to be a lot bigger, I can say extra large is a property if I want to do that. Or I can give it actual an actual pixel height as well. So I can say like 36 pixels, 50 pixels, 100 pixels. We'll keep it at 50 pixels, and then we're going to, last style we'll look at is the text align center. All right, there we go. All right, so now that's how we're actually styling everything, which is really cool. All right, so this isn't enough information for you to build any sort of large-scale project. What I think you should do is you should end up trying to figure out a website that you want to create and then try to replicate it. So what do I mean? What I mean is I go to YouTube and I look at this page and I'm like, hey, I want to build a page like this. Well, there's a ton of stuff going on a page like this with YouTube. You have servers that are streaming actual video data, that are that are displaying thumbnail images, all kinds of different things. Thousands of requests are being made for a page like this to be displayed, but you don't have to have all the bells and whistles that YouTube does in order to create a YouTube type site. If you want to be a good UI designer, you should be able to take this exact layout and be able to apply it to your own project relatively easily. And there's going to be a few tools that I want to show you that you should be using, I think, to make your life a lot easier to do something like that. So let's first look at how we would do that. Number one, we need an editor, and that's where we should go to Visual Studio Code. And Visual Studio Code is a completely free, open source, cross-platform text editor that you should be using to write your code. I recommend it because it's just so much easier to get started with. So Visual Studio Code is definitely a good project. So when you open it, number one, download it, install it, and then when you go to run it for the first time, what you need to do is you want to open the folder that we just created for the tutorials. And your code for your project should all sit inside the same folder. You don't want files in one folder and files in another folder. Like basically you want one root folder for your project and then subfolders. You can have as many subfolders as you want, but you should always have one folder for your project. So we already have that here. So I'm going to create our first file, which is just going to be first file.html. Your file has to end in a .html in order for it to be actual HTML and to have a browser be able to open it. So we're going to have just our basic HTML tags. Once again, this is not a HTML demonstration, or at least not an HTML tutorial. All right, so there's our basic structure, our skeleton that every HTML page needs. It has its head and it has its body, and then inside the body, let's go ahead and put our hello world example. All right, so now that we have that, if I go ahead and I right click from within Visual Studio Code, I say reveal and explore, it's going to open it right to the location. If I double click on it, because we saved it as a .html file, Windows knows to open HTML files using Chrome since it's a web page. And you can see that we have our hello world. So if we wanted some more styling on that, I could just go ahead and start style color red. Control S to save. We go back and we take a look and we can see that we have red font. So working inside the browser is good if you want to see quick and dirty results of what you're doing, but none of this stuff is going to be saved. If I refresh, we have the original stuff that's back, so we lose it all, and that's why it's not really a good idea for any sort of major web development. Now the next thing you're going to want to get into is something called Bootstrap, and everybody's using Bootstrap these days. Bootstrap still uses, well, you know what, let's just focus on Bootstrap for the moment. So here is Bootstrap, and Bootstrap is going to make it so much easier when it comes to laying out our pages. And like I said, everybody uses it, so by you using Bootstrap and designing websites using it, you're going to be much more employable to different employers and things like that. So let's go ahead and we're going to just download the entire source files here. And what this will do is it gives us a Bootstrap folder. Although this stuff has way more crap than I want. Actually, one second. We just want the compiled version. Sorry. All right, so what this is going to do is it's going to give you two folders here, the CSS and JS folder. And what we want to do is extract it to our project. So we're going to see projects, tutorials, beginning web development. And we'll put it right there. All right, so we've extracted it there. So now if we go back to our folder, you can see we have this HTML and CSS stuff. So let's go back to our editor here, and we're going to, number one, we're going to add our Bootstrap file. So now I could say link relation equals style sheet. And this is the location to where it can be found. So it's in our CSS folder. And then we're going to have bootstrap.min.css. So that's all we actually want in this particular link right here. So we're pointing to this Bootstrap file right here. And this is a bunch of stuff you don't have to know what it means, but we're going to be using it to get started with. So once again, you're going to take this piecemeal. You're going to start with HTML. You write it in your editor or write it in the browser. Go through the tutorial series on the W3 schools, and then go on and start taking that HTML and styling it with CSS. And then once you're done with that, then you're in a position now to start using Bootstrap. So then you would want to bring in Bootstrap just like I showed you, and then you would start using that. Now, because we imported Bootstrap correctly, we now have this different looking style, so that's good. That's what we need. So now what I can do is I can actually start using Bootstrap style. So if I have a class, I'm going to say container. Everything in Bootstrap exists inside of a container. It's all containers and rows. So we're going to have a class for our row. All right, and then we'll put this inside of our row. And if we refresh it, you can now see that the container and everything, we're getting these styles that are coming from the CSS. Right now I have source maps turned on, so don't pay too much attention to that. But all this CSS is actually coming from the Bootstrap library that we imported and everything. Now there's a ton that you have to learn about Bootstrap, but it's going to be best that you learn how everything's laid out with columns and rows and everything before moving into the next phase, which is what I'm going to tell you. This is basically the third and final phase for web development type technologies. So the next thing would be and remember to take some decent amount of time to study this Bootstrap stuff. There's a lot here that you have to actually digest in order to get started with. There's just so much there. Like, but there's going to be styles and everything for you that just tells you how to lay things out. Like, it'll tell you, okay, when you have the reason why our Bootstrap headings changed is because they have all these styles here that dictate how headings and everything work. But all of it is well documented, is what I'm trying to say. So make sure you just check that out for more information when you get started. All right, so the third and final piece that you want to learn about with web development is going to be actual JavaScript. And this is the language, and it is a programming language or a scripting language. Some people will tell you it's not a programming language, but a scripting language. But anyway, it is definitely a programming whatever, you're going to write it to program in. So anyway, whether you call it a scripting language is technically what it's termed at. But anyway, this is here we have a variable. We have a variable x that is assigned a value of hello world, and then we're just using alert to display it using JavaScript, and that's what actually does the pop-up boxes, those annoying pop-up boxes you get. That is developers using the alert statement to cause the browser to alert you with that information. So where do you learn a bunch about JavaScript? Well, really, this is the one thing that I would recommend maybe books on, or you could look at some of my ES6 tutorials. There's a lot of great tutorials that are out there. You could use it like paid ones like Pluralsight, or you could just use free ones like myself. But I think if you use free resources along with maybe a book or two that you get, Mozilla also has some really good documentation on JavaScript, which I think they have the best documentation. But you can really you can spend a ton of time in JavaScript, and I think just initially don't try to be a ninja. Don't try to get into JavaScript frameworks like Angular or React or anything like that. Before you get into any of that stuff, I would recommend that you use jQuery first, because you need to know where we've come from. I think because if you're trying to work in the corporate world, this is still going to be something you're going to run into. I'm not saying you have to spend 3 weeks learning how to use jQuery. I'm just saying be familiar with it enough to where you could say, you know what is jQuery? Let's look at a jQuery CDN, which stands for Content Distribution Network. And what I can do is I can actually just grab one of these, and like here's the minified version, and you can just pop this script right in here. So I don't even have to download anything like we did with Bootstrap. I can actually put it right inside the closing body here. So now we're pointing to this script. And if we go back to our file, I can now use. So I'll go to my page, I'll right click, I'll say inspect, and then I'll go into the console. And then inside of here, I can now start using this JavaScript syntax to start selecting DOM elements. So I said body and it returned the body tag. Now jQuery actually did that. This $ is a special meaning. And anything inside these parentheses is actually the element that we want to go after. So I know I didn't lay out like an exact step-by-step guide on how you can actually make a YouTube type page. Like it's obviously not a simple or straightforward thing. It's going to take a lot of time to get right, I think. So before you start getting into React, Angular, or even a server-side language, I really feel like you should be comfortable enough to be able to lay out a web page like this. Now, it doesn't have to have the same functionality, but literally I could copy this video URL, or even, I mean, it's just so simple to get like certain things. Like if I go and I get the embed code, so I can get the embed, here's the iframe, I'm going to copy that, go back to our page, and we'll put this inside of our container maybe, and then we'll just even call this the name of the song that is on that video there. So there we go. So now you look at something like this, and it's like, oh, well, this title is like not all the way across. So what we could do, we could tell this thing inside of our header here that we want it to be width 100%. And then we're going to say text align center. And then with our iframe, like if I want to start styling this thing, I could say, you know, I want it to be a little bigger. Just do it here as well with 500 pixels, 800 pixels. So anyway, you can see it starts to match this up, and now our header needs to probably go back onto the left. You can even text indent it a little bit if you wanted. So anyway, there's all these different styles you can have. So like you would just start one-to-one, start designing your stuff out. You know, make the page be able to work with just HTML, CSS. Keep it all local, like I said, in your little folder and everything, so that you're not trying to bite off more than you can chew. There's no reason, even if you were like, hey, I want to build a website, I want to use MongoDB. There's no reason why you need to with MongoDB for like why your shit's not listing on the right port or whatever. You don't have to do any of that. That stuff is just gonna lead you down a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. Get familiar with this stuff first, because if your job, like if your role is to go to a boot camp or is to do this or that to try to get into a web development gig, start something small, digestible, by following advice like in this video, and then from there you're going to start expanding your wings, and it's really going to do you a lot of good because you're going to be able to gain experience the right way. There's actual wrong ways of going about learning, and I've actually made many I've taken that route many times, and just trying to get you guys to not take that route with this video. Thanks for watching, guys, and studywebdevelopment.com. He has a freelancing bundle that he's come out with. He calls it Freelancing and Beyond is the actual name of the ebook that he's created. But he's got a lot of information on his website and also in the ebook, and he's selling this tutorial because he's found success in his freelancing work that he's done. He's been a programmer since he was 17 years old, so he's been doing it for quite some time now. He's well into his adult years at this point. So anyway, he's been in the industry for a while. If you guys could check out his website at studywebdevelopment.com/freelancing. The link is going to be in the description tab below, and then once again, he's got an entire ebook that he's looking to sell you that has a lot of good information in there. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day. So this video was brought to you by Dev Mountain Coding Bootcamp. They're a bootcamp that is based out of Utah, but they're also in Texas and Arizona now. And they have very good reviews, so make sure you guys check them out. The link is in the description tab below. They offer courses in web development, iOS development, UX or user experience design, quality assurance, and just a few other ones. In fact, they're even getting into Salesforce as well now. So they're continuing to adapt their courses based on what the market needs are, and major companies are hiring some of their alumni. So make sure you guys give them a look. They have great reviews, and thanks for watching. Bye.